Okay, I think we're all ready to go now for our meeting. So let's go ahead and start our Planning Commission meeting. So good morning and welcome to the February 21st, 2023 City Planning Commission meeting. Our meetings are hybrid, which consists of in-person and virtual, and I'm thankful to be able to join today remotely. The commissioners look forward to hearing your case today, as we understand every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is a hybrid meeting, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations, 20 minutes for the applicant plus questions by the commissioners. And when we move to public comment, I will call on those who are in the council chambers first, followed by those who are joining us virtually. We do have a timer to keep our meetings on track and expect public comments to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or larger group. In all instances, please limit any repetitive comments. Please note that if our meeting will extend beyond 1 o'clock, I will announce by 11 our intention whether or not we will take a lunch break. The break will be a minimum of 30 minutes and will occur after conclusion of a case within the 12 o'clock hour. The comprehensive plan, Casey Spirit Playbook, is in the final stages of producing the new plan. So we'll hear a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And as we get started, I ask staff to provide some ground rules and instructions as we conduct this meeting to ensure minimal disruption and maximum clarity. Joe, are you available to remind us of these ground rules?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the chairman mentioned, we have attendees both virtually and in person here in City Hall. If you're on Zoom participating, you'll notice that there are two sets of participants. One is panelists, which currently consists only of commissioners and staff, and the other category is attendees. So if you're in the attendee list, when a case is called, if you're the applicant, go ahead and raise your hand as soon as it's called, and we'll promote you over to a panelist position. If you're anyone else who wishes to testify during public testimony on that case, raise your hand during the staff discussion portion of the case, and we'll promote you over during the public hearing for that. In either case, when we send you an invitation to accept the panelist position, you must accept it to be promoted over to that position. And once you're there, we ask that you stay muted until you're ready to speak. And when you're done speaking, that you mute yourself. Finally, the last bit of advice is the chat feature in Zoom is intended only for questions of a technical nature or where we're at on the agenda. It isn't to be used to provide any discussion of the individual cases. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start then with our consent agenda items.
All right, we have 4 consent items, all of them with our recommendation of approval with condition, starting with item C1, case CPC 2022-00224, a request to approve a project plan for an accessory parking lot on about 1.5 acres at 920 Wyoming Street. Docket item C2, case number CPC 2023-00009, request to approve a project plan for Parkville Women's Clinic at 5801 Northwest 72nd Street. Docket item C3, case number CPC 2023-00008, the request to approve a final plan in District MPD for Andy's Frozen Custard, generally located at the northwest corner of 88th Street and North Ambassador Drive. And docket item C4, case number CPC 2023-00011, request to approve a project plan for the Berry Plaza GI Alliance Clinic located at North Green Hills Road and Northwest Berry Road. And as I mentioned, in all cases, staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items C1 through C4? Okay, hearing none. Let's open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items C1, C2, C3, or C4, please raise your hand or come forward and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one has raised their hand on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve the consent docket with C1, C2, C3, and C4, all approval with conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items C1 through C4. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion then passes 6-0. All right, let's go ahead and move to our regular agenda items, beginning with those looking to be continued to a future date.
All right, the first continuance is docket item 3, case number SUP 2023-00005. A request to approve a special use permit to allow the renewal of the special use permit for an existing halfway house in District B4-5 located at 1534 Campbell Street. The applicant is requesting continuance. Staff recommends without fee to March 21st. Next continuance is docket item number 7, case number SUP 2022-00056. Request to approve a special use permit for a restaurant in District R6 on about half an acre at 2032 Summit Street. The applicant is requesting continuance. Staff recommends without fee to March 7th. And the final continuance is docket item number 8, case CPC 2023-00006. Determining compliance of the Union Hill 353 development plan for the Phoenix Redevelopment Corporation on 52 acres, generally bound by 30th on the north, Gillum on the east, 31st on the south, and Main on the west. For the Union Hill 353 certificate of completion. In this case, the applicant is requesting continuance to February 7th or to March 7th, and staff recommends without fee. And that concludes the continuances.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items 3, 7, and 8? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding continuance of docket items 3, 7, and 8, please come forward in the chambers or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber interested and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion from one of the commissioners, please.
Chair Corral, I move to continue docket items 3, 7, and 8 as stated in the docket.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second for continuance of docket items 3, 7, and 8. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes for continuance of those docket items to a future date as stated on the agenda. Okay, with that, let's go back to docket item number 1, please.
All right, docket item number 1 is case number CD MISC 2022-00001. Receiving from Long Range Planning and Development staff a memo in reference to the release of the 21 objectives of the KC Spirit Playbook. Since the last CPC meeting, all objectives have been posted for review at playbook.kcmo.gov, and each has been posted with a survey to collect public feedback. These surveys will remain open for the next several weeks. Morgan Pemberton is the long range planner, as well as her supervisor, Gerald Williams, are here to answer questions for the commission.
Okay, sounds good. Do you guys have some comments first or just?
Yes, we're loading up our presentation. Good morning, everyone. Gerald Williams, Long Range Planning Division Manager. So we're here this morning as a follow-up to our January 17th presentation, where we were here to talk about and have a conversation with you all about the draft plan, the draft recommendations we put out on the website, and we're able to review. We're here today to talk about what we've done since then and to talk about our next steps before we come back to you on the 21st of March and ask for adoption of the. So with that, are we ready to hand it back over to Morgan for a few slides here?
Good morning, everybody. Just moving my screen out of the if I can. Okay. Well, we are here to give you a quick update. We're still hoping to bring the final draft plan to you in the coming weeks. And we wanted to give you an update on where we're at and some of the other elements of the plan that have been finalized since the last time that we saw you. So today, giving a quick update, also a quick update on the public engagement meetings that we've been holding leading up to having this final draft plan ready to go, the other elements that we've been working on, and then what is next for us over the next month or so. So just a quick reminder to anyone who is following along, the comprehensive plan is the 20-year plan that will guide physical development related decisions in the city for the next 20 years. It has to do with development, land use, how the city invests its money, the development codes that we adhere to. And because the physical development of the city hits so many different topics, it is also related to things like public health, transportation, housing, and all of those other elements. And giving you an update on where we're at. We started the process in late 2019, and we are now in the phase of bringing that final draft document together and then bringing it to our decision-making bodies for adoption. And just a reminder, the overall organization of the plan, how it's structured. We have our vision statement, the values that we adhere to in the plan, 10 citywide goals that can also be sorted into 5 general topics that you might be more familiar with when it comes to development terms, housing, transportation, those types of topic areas. And our 21 objectives are the sections of the plan, the chapters of the plan, if you will. That's where the real meat of the plan lives, including where all of the recommendations will be, which are the community supported action items. And the implementation matrix is going to be our organizing tool. That is where you will find all of the recommendations listed out in accordance to the approximate timeline it would take to accomplish that recommendation, metrics that we would be using in the future to track how we are doing in accomplishing the goals and the recommendations of the plan, and the responsible entities who would be responsible for initiating the recommendations. So since we last saw you, we've held 2 public meetings, one in the south part of the city at the Hillcrest Community Center and one at the Northland Neighborhoods, Inc. offices. We also have a 3rd meeting tonight that's going to be at the Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Center that starts at 6 o'clock, and people can attend virtually or they can come in person. We've had pretty successful meetings so far with several people. We've had about 10 to 15, maybe 20 in the room, and also about the same number of people attending online. So I think having a hybrid meeting has been really effective for us in this last phase of these public meetings. And it gave staff the opportunity to interact with people both online and in person and answer their questions. And I do apologize for the fonts kind of going a little wonky on me.
No worries. So what we're going to show you now are some of the things we've done to help produce the plan since January 17th. We've shown you what the 10 goals are. We've shown you kind of abbreviated version of the 21 objectives and the vision elements. So since that time, we have put together a draft of all of the goal pages. So there's a lot more detail than just that one sentence you see on the 10. There's a couple of pages of supporting text to go with each of those. Well, and they talk about how they relate to other elements of the plan as well. And Morgan's going to show you a PDF that we've of a draft of our website here of one of the goals we've completed. So just to give you a quick idea what that looks like for each one of those, we'll have a little bit of a narrative, and then as you go down, it'll talk about how this goal relates to other elements of the plan to help you navigate. If you're interested in this connected city goal, where else in the plan you can go look to find more detail, to find the nuts and bolts in the plan to talk about that goal specifically. So we've got 10 drafts like this that are going up on our website now, and we have also done the same work on the topics as well. So we have 5 or 6 of those topics as well. This is just another way to organize the plan around broad topics like land use or transportation. So if you want to go in and see everything the plan has to say about environment and climate change, which is one of our topics, then you can go to that section and it will help guide you through where to look on the plan to see what the plan has to say about that and where to find it, how it relates to the vision statement, how it relates to the other topics and goals, and where in the objectives you can find those strategies that relate to that topic specifically. So those are 2 big things we've done since our January 17th presentation to you all. The draft goals, the draft topics are just completed last week, and we'll be hopefully getting those to a place we can share them with you. We're sharing some of that with you right now, I realize, but we would like to share all of these with you very soon. We're hoping that by March 6th, we'll have a completed web document. So that'll give people the ability to go access the complete document to see all of these pieces and how they fit together all in one place. And we are frantically working right now to put that together, us and our consultants, some of whom are here today, helping us get that work. One of the other pieces that we're doing, you've seen the 21 objectives and all the recommendations they have. Another piece of the objectives is what we call context, and that's data and mapping related to those objectives. So there's 21 of these context sections as well, which we've just completed. This is an example of the one for access to jobs objective, which shows you data about where jobs are located, where job growth and decline is occurring, and other information related to that objective for those people who want to know more about the data behind it and know what that context is as well. So we have these pieces we're going to add and share with you all and everybody as well. It'll be part of that March 6th website that we're putting together. And ready to go to. A lot of windows open. So the other pieces we're working on, we talked about the topics and the context, is an implementation matrix. So what we've done is we've added what we're calling implementation information for all of those recommendations and all of the 21 objectives. So things like who does it, what the general time frame is, and what the funding is. Is it a capital improvement cost, or is it is it not a city cost? Is it something that's paid for by others? So those kinds of considerations have been added to all of our recommendations, and we're in the process now of putting that into a matrix and a filterable, sortable database. There'll be a user interface where you can go in and you can click on different topics, you can click on different objectives or search by keyword, and you'll be able to see the recommendations, you'll be able to see the implementation timeline and cost and responsible entities. You'll be able to see metrics associated with those recommendations and objectives as well. So our implementation chapter is another one of those things that's coming together along with the matrix. And we'll be sharing that again at March 6th date is when we'll kind of roll out all of this for everyone to. These next, I think there are 6 of these slides now. I mentioned that we have metrics attached now, identified now for all of our objectives. These slides just show you, and these we will go ahead and share with you, are the metrics we're proposing to use in the plan to help measure success. We are calling them measures of success. And we have them organized here generally by topic, which is not exactly how they're done on the plan. They'll be organized by objective. But this gives you some idea of what we're going to use in the plan to help us to use this metrics to help us identify whether we're successfully implementing different parts. This is something that would be continuously or regularly updated. So we would want to revisit these data metrics to see if they're the right ones, to see if they're measuring the things we wanted them to measure. To see if we're able to track and measure these things accurately and successfully over time as well. So that's part of the implementation process. This is one of those items that we would revisit periodically to make sure it's doing what we want it to do through that implementation process. All right, so any questions about any of that before I go through our next steps? Okay,
I don't have any. Thank you.
all right. That a no questions?
I think
or-
so,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, I hear what he said. So our next steps are to wrap up our public engagement process. We have our final public meeting this evening, and then we'll continue our online engagement for a bit longer. What we need to do, though, is transition our online engagement website into the actual plan document website. So that transition needs to happen soon if we're going to get a final plan adopted in about a month. March 21st is that date we come back to you. I think we're actually also on your March 7th docket to have any last conversations we need to have, with you all before that March 21st hearing. Where we'll ask you all to take action and hopefully to adopt the document. We'll continue to work on these final edits, creating the website. Again, there's a ton of work going on behind the scenes on all of these different elements. That we'll be wrapping up for a draft website on March the 6th. And then we'll have a document to you all before your March 21st hearing on or about the 14th of March, where you'll be able to see the final document in both the PDF format and of course, the web-based document as well. We have a city council business session scheduled for March the 9th. We are continuing also to schedule briefings with individual council people, with mayor staff, with the manager staff as well. And then, of course, we will go to the city council, assuming this body approves the document. We would go to the city council after that, someday to be determined, possibly that same week, late in March. With that, we'd like to take any questions, and if there's anything that you all like to see more detail about or have a discussion about, if you've been continuing to review the document.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Every time you bring it back, there seems to be a better, great document, user friendly as well. So we appreciate that. Any questions from commissioners?
With all the different components, how much would you weight the value of the implementation matrix? And the reason I'm asking is just assuming, so we'll probably see that March 6th or 7th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How would you weight the value of that relative to the rest of everything else?
I think it's just another piece to help inform, when we put these recommendations in the document, what we typically get is a lot of questions about how is this going to get done? And the more direction we can provide in that for future people that may not even be us who are implementing these things, or background information or just helpful guidance like that you can provide better. It is something I think you need to revisit and update. It's not the implementation matrix itself is something that needs to be continued. It's not the 20-year document because things change and priorities shift, and maybe new funding sources emerge, or responsible entities may change as well, and things get completed. You can check them off the list. So that's going to be part of our implementation dashboard that helps track what's been.
And am I correct in thinking that that is a new improved version of a comprehensive plan, or a new addition to a comprehensive plan that we did not have in the last plan?
Actually, I think Focus did have a similar kind of matrix in it, where it listed on all the different strategies and initiatives. I think it had general information about who should do it, and I don't know if it had any cost data or anything like
And then was that one updated regularly?
that. No.
So we'll be adding a recommendation to update it regularly. And then do you have any sense of how successful the implementation matrix was on the previous plan?
I think, as I said, it's just a useful guide. It's better to have it than to not have it, because it provides that extra level of detail for how to do things. You do have to be careful about information you provide, realizing that it you're talking about a recommendation that may not have aids, and circumstances can costs, especially. So I don't want to devalue the plan by putting things in it that the credibility document, So we're trying to balance that out as we're creating that. But I do think it's extremely useful for whoever is implementing this plan, likely us, but probably also future staff down the road and future implementation committees, future city plan may not have been part of the process to have that kind of guidance and information to them steer through how details are all figured out, as you're moving through the implementation process, as you're figuring out as a city what your priorities are, where on the to-do list you are, and all that sort of thing. That's when you figure out the real details about who your partners are and how much it actually costs. This is kind of ballpark information to get things started, if you will.
And when we see the final implementation matrix, will it be directional in that, for example, increasing access to trails or decreasing, pedestrian fatalities, or will it also be quantified?
We have mentioned the measures of success, which are metrics. Not every recommendation has one, but every objective has metrics to help identify whether we're achieving it. So that is directional. All of those metrics are up or down kind of things, right? We're also reviewing all of our recommendations for what we're calling actionability to make sure that it's directional, but also that it's something that has an action to it, that it's not too nebulous as to what exactly it is we're suggesting be done. So we as staff are reviewing and making refinements to make sure that the recommendations are actionable, and I suppose directional is part of that as well. Yeah, not everything is directional necessarily, but certainly all of our metrics are directional.
Thanks. I'll try to make sure that I'm caught up as quickly as possible and feel comfortable with it when it comes before us. I am concerned that I'm putting too much weight in the implementation matrix, because for someone who feels like 21 objectives is a lot of objectives and that this is such a massive document, I like the idea of prioritization and quantifying things. And I'm concerned that I'm going to want to spend more time with looking at that, because it's going to help us understand in a world where we can't achieve all these things, at least in the first 5, 10, 15 years, how we focus our energies and efforts and which have, greater impacts. And so I'm really eager to see that. And at the same time, if I guess I'm just voicing that I want to, my hope is that I'm able to understand it fast enough that I feel comfortable, recommending approval of it in a short period of time.
Our new mantra through these public meetings we've been hearing about making brevity is a good thing. And our new mantra is, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, the plan is essentially as much as you want, as much as you need, or as little as you want, I think is how we're saying that. So the idea being that you can dive in and get a whole bunch of detail and maybe get lost even in the detail, or you can see it at a much higher level, experience it, and it can be summarized in a way that I think more digestible, distinctly, So that's we're designing this whole website in a way that hopefully users will be able to dive in where they want and not see all that detail where they don't want. And hopefully it's user-friendly. That's not too difficult to consume or understand. Easy to find your way exactly quickly to where you want to get. So we're even putting in what we're calling a user's guide at the beginning, and identify all the different users of the document: a developer, a neighborhood resident, appointed or elected official, a city staff person, all those different kinds of users, and saying, here's the areas of the plan that you might find. So everything from the user guide to how we're designing the website, even how we're hiring someone now to go through the document for succinctness and brevity. A journalist actually is going through for among other things, plain language and common voice and things like that as well, but also brevity too. So that's all the other. So.
Great, thanks.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't have a question.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Joe, let's move on now to docket item number 2, please.
All right, the next docket item, docket 2 was continued. The next one that is not is docket item 4. Case number,
But docket item 2 wasn't continued.
oh, okay.
It's
So-
3 that continue.
Okay, it's, I'm just, it has a continued from date on it and I'm not used to seeing that. All right, docket item 2.1 is case number CPC 2022-00198. A request to approve a rezoning from districts R80 and R5 to district R7.5 on 15 acres at the northwest corner of Northeast 88th and North Highland. And docket item 2.2, case number CPC 2022-00197. A request to approve a preliminary plat at the same location. Olufu Agbaji is the staff planner.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Plan Commission. Olufu Agbaji, City Planning and Development. I haven't seen you guys in a while, so I said I should pop in here and just check on you.
Yeah, good morning.
This is a simple rezoning and a preliminary plat. I'll just run through it real quick. With me is Patricia Jensen. She's the applicant for this case. And this case is located up in the Northland where my arrow is pointing. So it's generally just at the southeast corner of 152 and 169. So
Hey, Olufu, I'm not seeing your presentation.
I knew something was up.
Thank you.
Chair.
You're okay. I don't feel so bad when a younger guy can't get it.
No,
Okay.
I asked him if I was okay, and he
I can
said,
see
yeah.
it here, yeah.
Now, okay, so I'll just go back. You actually, so the area again is at the southeast corner of 152 Highway and 169. And just looking closer at the site, so the Maple Woods Parkway, which goes up to north-south from Staley High School down to, is just west of the Metropolitan College, Maple Woods Community College. And to the west of the site is Metro North, Twin Creek and Costco, just on the west side of 169. And again, I'm showing this picture of the site. The site is just, the top picture is just the street on the site is unimproved rural street, no curb, no sidewalk, no gutter. And the lower picture shows the specific site and to the right. So the two companion cases, first one is to rezone the site from R80, R5 to R7.5. And the second case is a request to approve a preliminary plat in district R7.5, creating 3 lots. So again, the current area plan is the Gashland Nashua area plan, and the recommendation is low density land use. And this proposal is consistent with that recommendation. Then we're going from R80 and R5 to R7.5. This is the site, 15 acres, and there are 2 existing homes on the site, and the unique nature of the site, they just want to carve out 1 parcel right between, and I'll show you the preliminary plat, and then leave the existing homes to remain. And this is the plat. So they want to create a track between the 2 homes, which will be meets the R7.5 zoning a recommendation, and also, so the two other parcels will be about 6 acres, 6.5 acres in size, and this is about 0.7 acre. And that one, the middle tract 2 will be served by existing sewer, and the other 2 will be served by septic. The reason this is before you is that the applicant is asking for half street improvement, which is, as you can see, it's the rural cross section. So for them to go ahead and do half street improvement with curb, gutter, sidewalk at this location will not be going anywhere in the future. So staff is supportive of that. And they also dedicating public right of way for future street improvement. So staff's recommendation of 2.1 is approval without condition. And staff's recommendation of 2.2 is approval with condition, and staff is supportive of deleting conditions number 1 and 2, which requires street trees, installation of street trees, since we're not doing curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and we're not doing the public improvement at this time. There is actually no need to put the street trees because they will be removed if the street is improved eventually. That ends my presentation, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Olofu, do you mind stop sharing the screen?
Mm,
There we go. Okay, not seeing any questions from the commission. Let's go ahead and open up for the applicant. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Stretz Law Firm, here to be on behalf of Carl Shoemaker. Carl Shoemaker is the individual who wants to construct the home right adjacent to his mother's home. That was viewed in the picture. So it's really just carving out a tract so he can build his new home and be near her as she ages in the future. And we have requested, and Olofu has agreed to delete conditions 1 and 2 because you can see the conditions of the street, and there are already large mature trees in that area that will be good for the street tree type atmosphere. Anyway, I don't have any further presentation, and we would request that you recommend approval, deleting conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item 2.1 or 2.2, please come forward in the chambers or raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak, and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Any final thoughts? Ms. Jensen?
No.
Okay. We'll take a motion by the commission then.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item 2.1 without conditions and docket item 2.2 with conditions, but deleting conditions 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a faint second. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes for approval of the project. Thank you for bringing it in and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to docket item number 4, please.
All right, docket item 4 is case number CPC 2023-00007. Request to approve a major amendment to a development plan for the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception located at West 12th Street and Broadway Boulevard. Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
Good morning, everyone. This case will look very similar to something you saw last year. I will share my screen. For you is docket number 4. This is CD CPC 2023-7. And this is a major amendment to a development plan for the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, just down on 12th Street from here. Site is located within the downtown loop. You can see here it sits between 11th and 12th on Broadway. Again, here is a view looking southwest from 11th and Broadway. And here's a view looking northwest from 12th and Broadway. As you recall, last spring, this project came before you as they are planning to construct an additional building on the corner of 11th and Broadway, also to provide some additional parking. As you can see here on the left, the previously approved plan had the old rectory building still incorporated with the site. The programming has changed for the applicant since last year. And now the proposed plan is to raise the old rectory. And also I have highlighted the dumpster will be moved away from 12th Street and within the interior of the site. That's something that the greater downtown area plan calls for. We want dumpsters away from pedestrian activity, especially in the middle of the summer. That's the last thing you want to walk by. The applicant did work with staff and found a safe place for the dumpster to be. And then the criteria for major amendments, if you're wondering why you're seeing this again, it does seem small, but in the zoning and development code, it does state letter E in 51606, a site modification involving location of buildings, raising and reconstruction of approved uses. The reason why it's important for staff to always pay attention to this is a small change on a piece of paper could happen, and it could be a significant change from something that you approved or council approved. In this case, it's not a major change, as in changing the entire programming of the site. But according to the code, it does trigger a major amendment to a previously approved plan. The applicant has been able to make additional improvements to the proposed building by incorporating more natural limestone within the design. That was something that was brought up last spring. And then again, these are the perspectives of what will be constructed on the corner of 11th and Broadway. Staff worked with the applicant and does recommend approval with conditions for this change to their plans.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? To city staff? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair. This is Lindsay Tatro with SFS Architecture, the applicant. I also have Father Paul Turner here with me today, pastor for the cathedral. He's going to give you a little bit of background as to why this change came about.
As you've heard, this constitutes no major change to the plan for the site. The new building you saw there will still have the purposes that we reviewed with you last time. On the upper floor, a new reception hall. On the lower floor, offices for the parish staff. We'll also maintain our emergency assistance outreach, which is primarily to the homeless of downtown, providing clothing, backpacks, shoes, needs that they might have. It'll improve restrooms. It'll improve accessibility to the main cathedral from the parking lot. And it will improve our parking situation. I think overall, it's going to draw more attention to the historic building that shares part of the skyline downtown, and it will also add more beauty to that block. The main reason that we have lobbied for the demolition of that rectory office building is a rethinking of where to do our meal service for the homeless. We, upon further review, thought that that building would not adequately serve the needs of our constituency. So we're actually planning to move that into the Catholic Center at 9th and Baltimore, just a few blocks away from us. It'll give us two different locations to maintain our Morning Glory Ministries service to the homeless.
Do not have any objections to the conditions and requests that.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one in the chamber wishes to speak, and there's no one on Zoom with a raised hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Any other thoughts from the applicants on this?
We're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and close testimony. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion from the commission, please.
Move to approve docket item 4 with conditions.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Mhm. Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowe,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes 6-0. We appreciate you bringing it in and thank you for all your good work that you're doing for the community.
Thank you all for your assistance.
All right, moving right along. Docket item number 5, please.
Case number CPC 2022-00188. A request to approve the 6500 Troost PIEA area and declare the area blighted and unsanitary and in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation pursuant to the Missouri Planned Industrial Expansion Authority law on about 1.19 acres at 6500 Troost Avenue. Larissa Chambi is the staff planner.
Good morning. This is docket number 5. The subject property, actually, hang on, let me share my screen. As you heard from Joe, this is a PIA plan for 6500 Troost. It's located in the Country Club Waldo area. And here's just an overview of its location, and staff is recommending approval. And Mr. McCoubry is, I believe, online.
Him and Pat Starrett have been promoted.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, David McCoubry with the Planned Industrial Expansion Authority of Kansas City. We are here today seeking approval of a blight finding for this property at 6500 Troost. Our end goal here is to make this property eligible for the PIA's incentives. So without further comment, unless you have questions, I'd like to turn it over to our consultant, Pat Starrett.
Thank you, David. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Pat Starrett with Starrett Urban. And as David mentioned, a consultant to the PIEA, and I'm here to provide a summary of the general development plan for 6500 Troost, as well as of the qualifications analysis related to blight. If I can share my screen. Here we go.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, if I can, here we go. The 6500 Troost PIA plan is located obviously at the southwest corner of 6500 Troost and East 65th Street. You can see there the red star and its relationship to other PIA plans in the area. That includes the Troost Rock Hill PIA plan that it's adjacent to, that was approved back in 2016. At that time, HCA was looking to redevelop quite a bit of its campus. And 6500 Troost at the time was not in the ownership of HCA, and so it was left out of that plan. It is now being promoted, the plan, by the same plan proponents of the 63rd Street Corridor PIEA, which you can see just immediately to the north and stretching between Oak and Troost. And that would be Butch Rigby, who is also here. He's in the chambers there with you. A little closer look, you can see that quite a bit of the Troost Rock Hill PIA plan has been implemented. That includes right now the current project that will be completed this summer, Brookside Commons, which is a large apartment complex immediately to the west. The one property that's kind of cut out of that plan is a kidney dialysis facility, which is in good condition. There's a public storage facility that's been constructed, as well as senior housing, the Brookside Senior Residences there to the south. Again, as mentioned, the planning area size is 1.19 acres, is one tax parcel owned by 6500 Troost LLC that they purchased back in August of this past year. You can see there's the Brookside Commons under construction in this aerial photo, and 6500 Troost, and you can see that there are two buildings on the one tax parcel. One is 6500 Troost and fronts onto Troost Avenue there on the right. To the left of that, separated by a narrow alley, then is a second building of 2 stories, and then to the south is a service yard and parking area that serves the 2 buildings. The existing improvements were constructed in 1954 by AT&T for purposes of a switch facility. There are 2 buildings, as I noted, 6500 Troost, which is 3 stories and about 35,000 square feet. Next to it is 1015 East 65th Street, which is 2 stories and about 15,000 square feet. There had been a previous use on the property back in the 50s of a service station where the service yard and parking lot is currently located. Current tenants include Spire, who leases the storage yard and parking lot, Superior Woodcraft, which is in a portion of the lower level of 6500 Troost, and Peter Cole Restoration on the lower level of 1015 East 65th Street. Currently, the 2 buildings combined have a vacancy of approximately 75%. The general development plan requirements require the developer to satisfy Country Club and Waldo area plan guidelines. The land use calls for mixed use community, so no change is needed there. Design guidelines will also be adhered to from the Country Club Waldo area plan. The property will be rezoned from B4-2 to UR at a later date, and there is anticipated a 10-year time frame for completion. The anticipated PIEA assistance is tax abatement, 10 years at 70%, or and an additional perhaps 5 years at 30%. The plan area is located within a non-distressed census tract. Proposed redevelopment includes the renovation of the existing buildings in site as commercial space that would include small office, restaurant, services, and would be about a $4.5 to $5 million investment. With respect to blight, as changed recently at the state level, the statute has been changed such that blight is defined as insanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of site improvements, and conditions which endanger life or property by fire or other causes. One or a combination of any of those factors must be leading to the retarding provision of housing accommodations, or an economic liability, or a social liability, or is a menace to public health, safety, morals, or welfare in its present condition and use. With respect to insanitary or unsafe conditions, there are environmental liabilities on the property, including groundwater contamination, asbestos, and mold. There's quite a bit of water intrusion through the two buildings due to roofs and the south basement wall of 6500 Troost. There are obsolete non-functioning building systems, including life safety, electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. No operating passenger elevator exists, so there is a lack of accessibility on the property as well. Tripping hazards exist due to deteriorated pavement, and then there's also trash and debris on the property. You can see this is on the western building, a fire that occurred back in 2018, which the then owner never repaired. And allows water intrusion into the property. The roof is still damaged, allowing water in. On the right, you see the foundation of 6500 Troost with water coming in on the south wall. You see water damage on the interior of 6500 Troost, and on the right is the HVAC system and some part of the electrical building systems that are discontinuous and just non-functioning. Trash and debris within 6500 Troost, and there on the right you see the service yard and parking lot that Spire currently leases, along with overgrown vegetation and trash and debris on that part of the property as well. Deterioration includes aging and deteriorating improvements such as deterioration of the roofs and windows, failure of finishes, and then deterioration of the pavement. And includes the roof of the western building, as you see there on the left, and then of 6500 Troost that you see there on the right. Failure of finishes throughout the interior of both buildings. This is 6500 Troost on both the left and right. Deterioration of the windows, the gutters, there are missing downspouts, and you also see failure of finishes on the exterior. This is the western building. And more of the western building there on the left and the right. And then 6500 Troost, damage to finishes on the interior of 6500 Troost, as well as the exterior that you see on the right. And then finally, the service yard and parking lot that Spire currently leases is also in poor condition. Altogether, the parcel exhibits insanitary or unsafe conditions as demonstrated, deterioration of site improvements, and then the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire and other causes. And that's primarily due to the non-functioning building systems, as well as the environmental liabilities that exist on the property. So the property has at least one blighting factor, and it has a predominance actually of all blighting factors. All of this leads to an economic liability, which is reduced negligible income, expressed also by low assessed values. There is currently, per the leasable square footage of improvements, $2.50 per square foot versus $15.50 to $22 within the marketplace. Generates low tax revenues of just over $8,300 per year. The impaired economic value, in our opinion, is brought about by the physical deterioration, insanitary and unsafe conditions, and the very high vacancy of the space there on the property. Social liability exists due to the environmental liabilities, the non-functioning, inadequate, non-existent building systems, that's life safety, accessibility, and utilities, non-compliance with modern codes, and then a menace to public health, safety, morals, and welfare is caused by deteriorated and insanitary conditions, which are a threat to health, and unsafe conditions, which are a threat to safety. And so the conclusion on the qualifications analysis is a recommendation that the 6500 Troost PIEA planning area in its present condition and use is a blighted area according to the definition provided in Missouri's Industrial Development Statutes, which is RSMO Chapter 100. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or if David has anything else to add.
I do
Okay.
not.
Any thoughts? Mr. McCoubry, I
Sorry.
didn't know if you had something you wanted to say first.
No, I don't, other than introducing Butch Rigby. He's the developer or redeveloper in this instance, and he may have a few comments.
Okay.
Didn't know if I heard my name called. Okay. I'm Butch Rigby, and I'm my business partner, Byron Pendleton, is in the room with us here today. We purchased this property last August, and we're here today with the intention of redeveloping that property, much as we have properties along the 63rd Street corridor and what has been sort of popularly known as Brookside East. You know, the bones of the building are solid, but the challenges are certainly abundant. You have not only the blight that you saw there, but we have to conduct a 12 to 24 month environmental testing. We'll sink wells. We did some extensive groundwater testing, and you know, since it was an old gas station, and while the levels of contamination were below commercial use and acceptable for that, they were above residential use. And so the state will monitor wells and hopefully give us a closeout letter on the property demonstrating that it's not further contributing. We found no tanks. They had removed them in the 50s before the state was involved. That's about a $100,000 to $125,000 process while we are renovating the building. We would anticipate this again to be home to small business. 63rd Street, we have, I would say, 85 to 90% of our tenants are a single office to maybe 1,500 feet, with a few anchor tenants such as Plate Restaurant and Brady and Fox, Maddie's Foods. Some of that. This one will probably be office space, maybe possibly restaurant or retail in the west building. But we intend on putting a sprinkler or continuing the sprinkler from the basement all throughout both buildings, making the buildings accessible, an elevator on the Troost, on the 6500 Troost building, new roof, upgrade the windows. We do want to honor the mid-century modern design. Believe it or not, there's a beautiful building in that pile there, and a couple of very beautiful buildings. Troost Avenue, we think, needs to continue what has been going on in our Midtown area. Some of the successes we found early on the crossroads, and we found along 63rd Street. We think Troost is next, and Paseo and Prospect, 63rd Street, connecting to the new developments down there. They're not without challenges, and of course the rents won't be the same. We certainly take very seriously our fiduciary responsibility when we ask for tax abatement or any tools to use for tax management. And we look at this as a tax management tool, as we did 63rd Street when we formed that PIEA. We want to grow the tax revenue, not only to the county and to the school districts and to the other people affected by this particular abatement, but we also want to grow sales tax revenues to the city. We feel that the 63rd Street corridor for 10 years was in a declining tax base for the city. And for the past 8 to 9 years, it has only grown and will only grow for the next 10 years in a way that our tenants don't get too much of a shock when they get their expense stopped at the end of the year. But we do grow those revenues. And of course, sales taxes from our restaurants along 63rd, not only the ones that we are the landlords for, but the ones that have sprung up around us due to that development, will contribute near $1 million in the next year and a half, 2 years. So hopefully this will continue that kind of opportunities for people and folks from, in our Midtown area. And we're happy to answer any questions about why we're doing this or what we're going to do with the property.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
I just have a question. Have you talked to the school district about your plans?
We talked to who?
The school district.
We will talk to the school district as part of going into the front of the PIA. We will talk to school district, the mental health district, and any of the other agencies that would be directly involved with this, and we always have.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 5, please forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the audience wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Any final thoughts, applicant, on this?
No, we just look forward to continuing to watch Troost become a vibrant part of our city.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to say, I mean, thank you for all the great work you guys have done, you and your team, on 63rd Street. It's been a great transformation, bringing everything back to life. There's a lot of activity there, and certainly, in my opinion, can see these two buildings doing the same kind of thing. So you've got my full support on this.
Chair Crowell,
Okay.
I move to approve docket item number 5, recommending the finding of blight.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second for finding of blight for docket item number 5. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes in
Chairman,
6 to none.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
David McCoubrey again.
Yes.
We likely need approval of the general development plan as well.
Okay, we can do that as a separate motion, which we should anyways.
I also move to approve the development plan it was.
It's called a
General
development plan.
General development plan for docket item 5.
Second.
Okay, so also on docket item number 5, got a motion and a second for approval of the general development plan. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, I think we got it all there now. So the finding of blight as well as the general development plan. So again, thank you and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you all.
Chairman, thank you very much.
All right. Here we go with docket item number 6, please.
Case number
I'm not
CPC.
sure which. Go ahead.
Case number CPC 2022-00225. Request to approve a development plan, which also acts as a preliminary plat in District B3-3 and R-1.5 on about 50 acres located south of Northwest Berry Road and on the west side of the future extension of Line Creek Parkway. Larissa Chambi is the staff planner.
Hello again. I will pull up my presentation. All right, this is, as Joe said, this is a case for a development plan, also acting as a preliminary plat for project CD CPC 2022-00225. The project is called Kimpton Falls and it's located at 3811 Northwest Berry Road. It's located in the Line Creek Valley area up north. As you can see here here's the zoning districts, and that green rectangle is just approximate. It goes a little further south. They are proposing a 420 units and associated amenities in this development. And here's just an aerial showing you just a little closer at what it looks like today. The development provides garage parking for each unit as well as surface parking. And it's located along the Line Creek Parkway future extension, as you can see just to the right of the development. Line Creek Parkway is identified as a parkway in the major street plan, and the applicant has ensured that the buildings that front that parkway meet boulevard and parkway standards. Access to the development is from Northwest Berry Road, and the zoning development code requires that new subdivisions connect to existing subdivisions. So you can see just south, if you can see my cursor, that would be connection to Northwest 82nd Street. Due to the proposed grading and the reduction of needed housing units that connection would require, staff is supportive of the waiver request the developer is requesting. Here is an overview of the pedestrian connections provided throughout the development. This development does not provide a bicycle lane on the extension for Line Creek Parkway. Staff would like to see an increase in multimodal transportation throughout the city. And the presence of bike lanes in this development would increase those opportunities. So staff is requesting that bike lanes be added to Line Creek Parkway. And we have Bailey Waters from Public Works in attendance to help provide some additional information for that plan correction. Here are the elevations. The construction materials consist of fiber, cement, board, and batten, stucco, and metal. And as you can see, the applicant will provide renderings, I believe. Yep. And almost all of the trees on the lot were removed prior to the submittal of the application, but the applicant is also providing landscaping in compliance with the zoning and development code. And then there are a few conditions to revise and discuss. So the first one, staff is recommending that 1.h be removed. The applicant provided an updated plan sheet fulfilling that requirement. And then conditions to revise, condition number 21, the applicant is requesting that the section in red be removed. And then here are a couple more to consider. As you can tell, so condition 1 is plan corrections prior to ordinance requests. 1D, the developer shall construct Line Creek Parkway per Parks Department standards, including a 6-foot wide sidewalk on the east side of the street. Update the plans to show a 10-foot wide trail alignment, which would directly connect the residential portion of the proposed development to the existing trail located within Tract B. 1F, provide a 12-foot drive lane and 4-foot striped bike lane on both sides of Line Creek Parkway. And 1G, which is provide a street connection to Northwest 82nd Street per section 40510B-2. 15, staff would like to keep condition number 15, just because if it is met, then it is met. And if they trigger it, then we have a way to make sure that it's built to the required fire department standards. Condition 22, the developer shall submit a preliminary stream buffer plan prior to approval of the plan. A preliminary stream buffer plan was submitted with this middle. And staff approve or recommends approval with conditions. I would also like to state that Public Works would like an additional condition regarding the developer's walkability study, and Bobby Evans is here to discuss that as well. So I can answer any questions if you have those. And I can pull these conditions up when we get to that.
I have a question.
Okay. Just real quick, I need to recuse from this case because the applicant, my company does work with them in other places. So I need to recuse. And so Commissioner Hill, can you take this over, please?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
I have a question just for clarity on the condition 21, the section in red. Is staff in agreement that that should be removed?
Yes.
Yes, okay. But on condition number 15, you want to keep that?
Yes.
Okay.
Explain that, what 15 is, what the aerial fire apparatus access is.
I just know that the fire department has a specific building height that requires the road widths. It doesn't seem that the development is meeting the additional 30 feet, or I'm sorry, the 30 feet width requirement. So we don't believe that they'll need that. Just in case they do decide to increase the height of the building.
We don't.
We'd like to have that.
The fire department requires extra width for certain fire apparatus, and for lack of, that's the term they use for buildings over a certain height. I don't know what that height is. I don't think these buildings come close to that. However, because we don't know for sure what the height is, we haven't had a chance to talk to the fire department since we weren't here yesterday. So we don't know what that height is. We suggest retaining the condition for now. If they don't trigger it, they don't trigger it. But if it's removed and they add height to the buildings, which they can do without coming back to CPC, they can add up to 6 feet in height. If that were to trigger it and this condition weren't in there, we want to make sure that we're still covered. But we should be able to know before this gets to council what that actual height is that triggers it. And if it's not more than 6 feet, then what they're proposing, we can remove it at that time.
So the roads right now are not wide enough. This needs to be.
I also don't know how wide of a path they need. It's just a comment that they put in that we didn't know there was an objection to until today.
Any other questions? If it's appropriate, can we hear from Public Works before we get to the applicant? That way in her presentation, if there's something to be addressed, it can be.
Yes. Yeah. For the bike lanes or the
I think you
additional
said,
condition.
for the additional recommendations that you all want to add.
Yeah, Bobby Evans is here to present that one.
Bobby, can you hear us, or has Bobby been promoted?
He's here in
Oh, he's
person.
here. Hey, well, thank
going?
you. Welcome.
I have a presentation that sometimes I find that makes it easier. I'm Bobby Evans, by the way, Public Works Multimodal Division. I'm happy to plug in and kind of show you what I'm talking about as opposed to just talking about it.
Awesome. Is that something?
Sure. Cool. If I just jump on, you mind operating this? Oh, shoot. What do I got to do? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, my gosh. This slide and start off. Okay, so thank you. Like I said, I'm Bobby Evans with KCMO Public Works and the Multimodal Division, and we do development reviews based upon the city's multimodal goals and the guidelines of various plans. So for this Clinton Falls, we asked for a walkability study, which is really common because they had a traffic impact study. So we have asked for a walkability study. The guidelines for the walkability study are laid out in Appendix C of the 2008 Kansas City, Missouri Walkability Plan. They did a really good job. It's a perfectly acceptable study. Just one of the crossings. So what they do is that we judge each of the pedestrian connections according to these 5 categories you'll see in the table at the bottom left of the slide. Directness, continuity, street crossings, visual interest and amenity, and security. And so essentially we use those as sort of like a proxy measure to understand what it's like to be a pedestrian in a given development. And for this one, most of the attributes scored perfectly well, except for you see that street crossings for Route 1 across Berry Road wound up being, it was a level of service F, obviously, because there's nothing there right now. And then in the future, level of service F, the walkability study said a study should be performed. So when we examined it, if you go to the next slide. So to cross this street where there is a bus stop, there's bus stops on either side of the street, and I'll get to the usefulness of the transit connection going forward. To cross this street, you look across the street, it's 70 feet. So I'm imagining someone who lives in this development who wants to cross the street to go see a friend, cross the street to get to this really useful bus stop. You can see it's 70 feet. The proposed crossing, next slide, please, would require a pedestrian to walk almost 3/4 of a mile east down to a trail crossing, which is a really safe and convenient trail crossing. It's just in order to get down there and then back, it's 3/4 of a mile. So that's where the directness becomes an issue, right? So we've all seen situations like this where, you know, the walkability of a place should be better, but it isn't, because it's going to just be an onerous thing for a pedestrian to be able to traverse. So if you go to the next slide. So one of the big deals right here is this is there's stops for the 201 North Oak line on either side of Berry Road. So if someone in this neighborhood wants to commute downtown via transit, we're adding an extra nearly a mile to their trip on foot. And you can see this transit line gets folks all the way down to Crown Center without having to take a single transfer. It could be really convenient right now, right? It's a greenfield, so it probably doesn't have a lot of ridership, but that's not to say it wouldn't in the future. And it certainly won't if you have to walk an extra mile in order to get to your stop. And so next slide, please. Oh, yeah. All right. So one of the things former member of the long range planning division in city planning. So I always look to the area plans to see what they say in terms of the goals, in addition to the mandate of our office, which is to try to work for multimodal connections and things. And so I look at the Line Creek area plan. One of the key issues they bring up is to, allow for multimodal transportation alternatives. They talk about an existing need for a variety of transportation options. This would help that. And one of the things they point out is connected sidewalks. Next slide. Also, the guiding principles provide a safe, accessible, and attractive and convenient network of sidewalks. I feel like adding this extra crosswalk and connection would provide that. They also, another guiding principle is to improve overall connectivity and strengthen in pedestrian and bicycle connections. Next slide. This is a lot to put on one, so I split it up. And then they have a walkability framework inside the area plan. And, the recommendations are to improve pedestrian connections along transit routes. Exactly what we're trying to push for here. Pedestrian crossings safer at bus stops. Exactly what we're trying to push for here. Next recommendation, next bullet point is to include sidewalk crossing and signals for other pedestrians, bicycle safety enhancements. And then last thing, which is directly what we're doing here, is that pedestrian level of service standards from the Kansas City walkability plan should be used to evaluate any proposed improvements. I think I might have another slide. Nope, that's it. So essentially that's what we're trying to do. Make it easier for folks to walk and bike. Having a city where you kind of literally have to drive to do anything doesn't happen overnight. It's a bunch of seemingly small stack decisions like this. And so that's one of the kind of smaller scale things that we're working towards to make it easier to ride transit, easier to walk in Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, are you asking for a recommendation, several of the recommendations that we've seen in this presentation, or are you asking for walkability fees, study?
So, yeah, the study that they put forth, the only thing they said was someone should study this. And so to counter, I said, you should build it. If you don't build it, you should try to consider building it. And then at least study it. But yeah.
If there was a condition to be added, is the condition that you would like for them to conduct this study?
Sure.
Ms. Chair, there is no condition currently in the conditions report that's in front of you. This issue came up at the very last minute, and I'll cover why it's dangerous to put in a crosswalk at that location.
Okay, I can cover that it can actually be built in a safe way if you like as well.
Okay.
Because it can be built in a safe manner. We build safe, this would be called a mid-block crossing. They can be built safely as well.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is open it up to the commissioners if there are any questions to ask staff. Then we'll transition to the applicant's presentation. And if there's an opportunity to ask questions, if there's something that the staff would like to rebut, we'll provide an opportunity for that before we go into public. Does that sound good? All right, commissioners, are there any other questions that you all have?
Yeah, I've got a question. I agree that it would be nice to cross there. And so one of the things that I don't have a good understanding for is when we ask applicants to add things and when as a city we decide to make those improvements. And so let's just, if under the assumption that the applicant builds this development, doesn't address any crossing there, what would the city likely do and on what time frame and in your professional belief, when should applicants be paying for crossings like this?
So what would likely happen is that if this doesn't get built, then we would get like a PIAC request, right? They would request probably about $200,000 to build a mid-block crossing with a Hawk signal, which is like a way to make it safer and the signage and everything, because this is on a bit of a crest of a hill. So that would wind up coming out of PIAC dollars. And then we would evaluate it and do the study that we're asking them to do, and then build it as necessary. Alternatively, they could construct this for the cost of about, sounds like $500 per unit additionally to construct this crosswalk.
So am I right to assume that your personal / professional hope is that because of the incremental change needed to happen, you're saying that everyone's going to have to participate, including applicants of new projects, and that's why you wouldn't just say we should get on a PIAC request right now?
Yeah, I from what I understand, and I'm that I have to defer to my colleagues who are more well-versed in the development review world. I don't think any of the plans that we have in place right now can actually compel a developer to do much. But I would say for this, if you look at a walkability study that has a level of service F and compare that to the way that we treat a transportation impact study, if they had an aspect of the transportation impact study, like a left turn that had a level of service F, the city would compel them to pay to have a left turn constructed. However, there's just really, from what I understand, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing really in place to do that at the pedestrian level. We say, okay, walk an extra mile to get across the street.
Commissioners, I think what we're talking about is providing a crossing from the south side to the north side of Berry Road, essentially. There's nothing built on the south side now. So I think certainly when someone's coming in to build something on the south side, it's reasonable to ask that developer to contribute towards a crossing if we believe they're going to produce visitors or residents that would use it. I think our issue is ensuring that it occurs at a safe location, because Berry Road is fairly hilly at this location, and of course the road itself wasn't designed to really accommodate pedestrians. There's turn lanes everywhere. So we would need to defer to Public Works to identify the proper location if the commission wants to require the developer to do this. The other option, I don't think it's been done for pedestrian improvements, but it has been done for street improvements, is deferral agreements where if the city does come in at some point to start this work, to provide a crossing, that the developer contribute something to it in that time frame. If sometimes they're secured or unsecured deferral agreements, depending on what the council ultimately approves.
I want to transition to Ms. Jensen, but one of the things that I'm thinking about, because it has to go to council for final approval, if that PIAC request is just on behalf of the staff, I don't know if you guys can make that to council to add it for PIAC. I mean, it sounds like, you know, when I'm thinking about people crossing, like, yes, there's the pathway that, as you said, that would add an additional 0.63 miles. But I also think about young folks who are like, man, I'm going to try to jet across this highway. And so I think for us, from the city's perspective, maybe not necessarily from the developers, if that is something after, you know, the city does a study, I mean, just to ask the council, because it's going to council, or at least let them know that this request would enhance not only this development, but future development. I mean, that's something I just thought to throw out there, but let's transition to Ms. Jensen, to the applicant.
Thank you, Chairman or Chairwoman and members of the commission. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm with offices at 4510 Bellevue. And with me to my immediate right is Mr. Haitham Dawlet. He is from Texas. He is the proposed developer of the Kempton Falls property. And to my far right is Mr. Gary Hayes. I think you're familiar with him with MD Management, which owns the property and which sought out Haitham to construct the Kempton Falls development. First, before I really go into the presentation, we've had a very, very good relationship with both Larissa and Joe planning out this site. In fact, we received an email from Joe complimenting Haitham and Gary in the layout of the site. It was one of the first I've seen, so I was very pleased with it. Well, it's not, no, I mean, it was just, it was the first I've seen, but anyway, we'll go on. Here is the site outlined in yellow that we're talking about. And then I'm going to draw your attention to the blue line that I have drawn across the site. You're going to see it in every slide that I show the property in. That is the 82nd Street connection, and we'll discuss that in more detail. The staff recommended in the conditions that the waiver be granted, but in the staff report, 1G still says provide a street connection. So that's part of the request of revision to the conditions that are in front of you. And as Larissa has already stated, we request the approval of a development plan with a preliminary plat for 49 acres in this location for a 420 unit multifamily big house residential development. This is the city parcel viewer map, and you can see the majority of our property is zoned B33, which is a commercial zoning classification, and the uses permitted in that classification, as well as a portion is zoned R1.5, and everything meets in accordance with the code. And again, there is the 82nd Street connection, and we're going to talk to you about that. There is an existing apartment complex that's called Wallen Creek, I believe, apartments. And this road accesses Wallen Creek apartments and seems like an internal drive for access to the apartments. It does not seem like a city street. We've talked to the owner of Wallen Creek to see if the city ever does snow removal or does maintenance, and the owner's information was they generally handle street removal or snow removal and do most of the maintenance to 82nd Street. there are generally no curbs or gutters along this drive, and there are multiple drive entrances onto 82nd Street. And we're going to show you a video today of that. Hopefully it will work. Public engagement, we mailed letters per your requirements on January 10th. We held our public engagement meeting on January 26th, and there were several owners from across the street to the north that attended. This is a site with snow on it, looking at the site now. And I do just want to mention that, yes, the trees were removed. Whoops. I need to go backwards. How do I go backwards?
You can
The
use
trees were
keyboard arrows.
removed. I don't know if you all know, but there is a bat regulation that kicks into place from about November 16th of each year until April 1st. You can remove trees then. You cannot remove trees beginning on April 1st until November 15th. In the city of Kansas City, Missouri, at least up north of the river, because there is a protected bat species that is located someplace in Platte County. I've never seen the bats, and I live right by here, but that's why the trees come down, is you see that we're trying to get them down before that requirement kicks into effect.
Can I ask a quick question, since you have the slide up? The structures there in the left-hand corner, are those the ones you referred to on 82nd Street with the street going into the development?
No, you can't really see that here. You mean this down here? Can you
Yes.
see my cursor?
Uh-huh.
That is across the street, Berry Road to the north. This is looking south.
Okay.
Again, there's photos of the property in the area, and we're gonna go into the Public Works Bobby Watkins request later in the presentation. I think it's very dangerous to do at the point that he wants to do it. There is a hill that is pretty steep along that area. These are pictures looking south at the property from Berry Road, or that should be east. You can see south is to your left, looking west along Berry Road, and then you're looking east along Berry Road, and then you're looking north at Line Creek Parkway. And this is the development plan that we've submitted to the city with the landscaping added in here and the streets that we're constructing. You can see Line Creek Parkway is proposed being constructed to here with this roundabout. These are the renderings. Haitham, do you want to add some comment on your renderings?
Yes, Haitham Dalit. The intent of this type of development is growing in a greater speed throughout the country. It's more symbolic of being in a residential area. It's the density on this, typically multifamily density in most suburban markets is around 24 units per acre. This product delivers an average of between 12 and 14 units an acre. So it's considered low density. And if you can see the lower render or picture, right behind that is all single family residential. So it works very well. It's typical single family residential is 2-story. This is 2-story. And the thing that's really attractive is the total number of units in each building is typically anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 units per building. So it's not a very complex area. And it gives residential anatomy to the whole residential. But this particular development and the way we program this is to include a lot of amenities. Typically in most of your multifamily developments, you see a leasing office with a fitness center and a pool. Here it has a combination of areas where people can migrate, there's an actual little area that's covered that's just for grilling. There's an area where people can grow plants and vegetables and flowers. And so it's got a real, very holistic approach to the amenity programming. Has a lot of walkability. There's sidewalks that connect all the buildings together. Pardon me. There's garages. So every single unit, even the second story unit, has a direct connection to a garage, which you don't typically see in a lot of the more dense multifamily units. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
And
Just looking at it, it looks like each entrance makes you feel like you're going into a single family.
Yes,
and not
every
the multifamily.
every unit has its own front door. So even a second story, you have a little covered porch area. And that's the thing that's really attractive about this. This particular project was finished in 2019 in Leander, Texas, and has received 19 national awards for its design. The project architect is Humphreys out of Dallas. They've been around a little over 40 years. They've actually developed this product and they're kind of their brand. And it's getting really popular in the suburban areas of this country.
But there's not basements, right? It's just, you're just highlighting the fact that they each have a garage. Okay.
there weren't basements.
No,
There aren't
there's no
basements,
basement.
So this next sheet shows you the landscape plan that's attached to the development plan. And then I'm going to cover now the issues we have with the staff conditions. So as I stated, 82nd Street seems to be more of an internal drive to Wattlin Creek Apartments rather than a city street. And these are photos. The top left is looking east from Green Hills. So that's when you first come off of Green Hills Road, which if you don't know north of the river, Green Hills is one of our major streets and is being improved as we speak. This looks east at the intersection of Northwest 82nd and Line Creek Trail. And so Line Creek Trail goes straight to nothing. It dead ends and it probably will never be constructed. And then you turn left-hand turn onto Northwest 82nd Street. This looks further east on Northwest 82nd Street, and I continue taking pictures as I'm driving along that street, and you can see all of the drive entrances that go off of there, and there aren't curbs or gutters generally. And then this middle picture is at the termination of 82nd Street. And then this property is at the very termination where I'm looking at our property. And we've got a video. Oops. I had it working before. There. So Gary, do you want to kind of narrate this video?
Yeah, basically the north-south road you see there, that's Line Creek Parkway. I mean.
Oh,
Green Hills
she's
Road.
trying to share it.
Green Hills. That is Line Creek. A car is turning on and then it will take a left and actually go up the hill onto 82nd Street. This development was put back in the 70s. So this road was at that time. Now we're getting into apartment development. See throughout the project, you'll see continuous drives just off of that street to the apartment complex. Get a swimming pool there right on about 15 feet off of street. Numerous turn-ins, exiting. The apartment development. There it goes, and then at the top of the screen, you see where it transitioned around that we're talking about. One thing I will say, I did talk to the owners. They too they don't want to see a connection on the Second Street to go through. Their claim, and I agree with them, typically crime is much lower when there's one way in and one way out of a development. You go in, you commit a crime, you got to go out the same way, and not so much great. They strongly like to see that not occur.
So that is part of the staff in its conditions has condition number 7 that says that the developer shall be granted a waiver to section 88-405-10-B-2 requiring streets and new subdivisions to connect to dedicated streets and adjacent subdivisions and provide for future extensions. We agree with that condition. But the condition number 1G in your staff report conflicts with that because it states provide a street connection to Northwest 82nd Street. So we're asking for you to delete that requirement. The other issue deals with the grading, widening, and bike lane on the east side of Line Creek Parkway. This slide, and we can have Perla come up and talk about this slide, but this demonstrates that we cannot grade over there without creating issues with the stream buffer. We've respected the stream buffer in this area, and any grading over on the east side of Line Creek Parkway will interfere with what we've done to protect the stream buffer. Gary or Perla, do you want to address it further?
Pull up that next.
Yeah.
This is Perla Diozato. I'm the civil engineer representing Kimberly Horn, 805 Pennsylvania Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. It's a little blurry here, but I'll describe what you're seeing on this cross section. So specifically on the northbound lane. So the red represents what would happen if we would to add the grass, the sidewalk, and you can see that we're getting into the outer zone. Additionally, you can see the middle zone being impacted by that grading on the red line.
So that's our request as to delete condition number 1D. And we disagree with the staff saying if you don't make them build it, at least make them grade it. Well, that's going to cause the issues with the stream buffer in that area.
Can you explain that one more time, please?
Yeah, of course. So we didn't have the stream buffer, but I believe it is on the package and how we're required to show the stream buffer impacts. And so we're impacting already. But to minimize those impacts, we didn't add this sidewalk on the northbound lane. So the red line represents, and I understand not typical to see a cross section, but if you see the coloring, so the middle zone is your flood zone, and that's the important one. We're not affecting that currently as we have planned the project. But if we were to add this sidewalk and grade this out the way that it's recommended, then we would be impacting this middle zone.
So what's the blue section?
The blue section is the flood zone. So it's the
And the orange is the
orange is the outer zone, which we can impact a certain percentage. Code requires about no more than 40%. And we are impacting some of that, but additionally to preserve, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it's really beautiful out there. with the trail. And so the less we impact there, we just preserve natural trees and we're trying to do that.
Then, since it's, I don't know how many yards it is, the section that's up close to Berry Road, is it not desirable to do retaining walls because of expense or because of environmental impact or both, or?
So we do have a retaining wall on the northern part of the project. And that's roughly, if my memory serves well, it's around 280 linear feet of wall. If we were to keep going, that would almost double. So we're, Patricia, do you want to do a slide where we show the actual site plan, either the landscape or? Yeah, that one's fine too. Yeah, so you can see that Line Creek Parkway kind of swings. And so right now we're matching obviously the north part where cars need to go through or turn, align the lanes. And so that's fixed. We can't do anything there. So then we do have a retaining wall on that part. And as the street starts to swing west, then we want to minimize that impact. And that hatching that almost looks red, kind of that symbolizes the impact that we're making on the outer zone. And so we're bringing a wall there. But in order to minimize that impact, we want to obviously minimize the wall and how we're bringing that down.
So that cross section, can you point out on this where the cross section is?
Yeah, if you zoom in, it's section DD. Yep, so you're seeing.
Line goes.
And so north of that line, DD there is retaining wall there, but you don't want to extend it to the south.
Correct. So we're trying to minimize the amount of impact. And as you can see right there, it's the blue, it's the same coloring as you saw the cross section. So the blue is the middle zone. And that is also the floodplain.
So this is going to be used for another comment I have, and Pearlie, you can stay up here to talk about that. But the next condition we're asking to remove is, it says, please update the plans to show, this is 1E, says, please update the plans to show a future 10-foot wide trail alignment, which would directly connect the residential portion of the proposed development to the existing trail located within Tract B. And I believe that's the issue that we have with the grades going down to the existing trail. So and Perla, would you comment on there? There's the Line Creek Trail that we all know and love. We all use that trail. It's beautiful, but it sits way down compared to this site.
Correct. There was another sheet also in our package that shows more cross sections, and I think we have it here, but we don't have the cross sections. It's in the package. You would see that the development sits up really high, and you can see here, if you zoom in a little bit on that Line Creek Parkway, all those lines represent a grade drop. And so, if you count all the lines, you're going down all the way from that development to Line Creek Parkway. And then additionally, you have the creek to get to the other side. It's just not feasible and doesn't make a lot of sense throughout the new Line Creek Parkway.
And so is it the applicant's hope that you'd still use the amenity of the trail, but you'd just be using the sidewalk on the street?
You go up to the sidewalk and it's a very close walk. And you can see how that trail comes down, and we'll show that more, but in order to get down on the trail, it is a drop as you're going down. So.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to ask for a clarification from Perla, if that's okay. So I think you were describing that up at Berry Road where Line Creek Parkway would intersect. One of the things I was wondering was, would it even be possible to taper in the northbound lane, but then widen it out at that point so that it's aligned properly with the existing part on the north side? In other words, reduce the median width by the equivalent amount of feet for the length of the entire segment all the way up until you get to Berry Road, where obviously has to widen out because of the northbound or the stuff north of Berry Road. Did I hear you say that you could not do that because it would, even if we, well, go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah,
I don't know if I heard you
your
correctly.
question, because we looked at that, and if I'm not answering what you're asking, let me know. We looked at how can we maybe squeeze it into the median, but with the lane configuration that's already constructed already on the north side of Line Creek Parkway, we wouldn't be able to shift those lanes safely.
Okay.
Yeah, keep in mind also, we do have a 10-foot trail down the west side of Line Creek for connectivity.
Right, we increased the size of our trail connection. So it was 10 feet on the west side of Line Creek Parkway. And we got a compliment from at least the staff about how good we were with our pedestrian circulation. The next one then is, and Perla, would you explain this? It says, as per Parks and Recreation standards, please provide a 12-foot drive lane and 4-foot striped bike lane on both sides of Line Creek Parkway. What we heard from the staff during our DRC meeting was that they were concerned that a truck or a car could stall and block the road from people being able to get around. So what we did in response to that was we increased the size of the lanes that you see to 14 feet wide. So that there is a possibility that if a car is stalled, it can go around the car that's sitting on Line Creek Parkway. And do you want to provide further comments?
Yeah, so previous one. Yep, there you go. So this cross section also shows what we did. Previously, we had a regular lane, but now it is widened to 18 feet back to back. And we analyzed how a car would, if they were to be stalled or, somehow parked for some reason on the side, then another car would be able to pass through there. And this is on both on northbound and southbound. They're both 18 feet back to back.
So that's the request as to why we're asking for you to delete condition 1F. Then we'll go in here.
So question, so there's no proposed bike lanes at all on the plan?
It's through the sidewalk, right?
Didn't hear the question.
No.
So there's no proposed bike lanes at all?
It's through the sidewalk.
Yeah, we made the sidewalks because that's how the bike lanes exist north of Berry Road. And we'll show you that.
Okay.
So here's what we're showing you right now, which is a good question. The Line Creek bike lane is separate from Line Creek Parkway on the north side of Berry Road. So you can see that the city made the sidewalk much wider, and that is the bike lane that exists on the north side of Line Creek Parkway. Issues with staff conditions, and we're talking now about the crossing on Berry Road at Line Creek Parkway. And today, Miss Bobby Watkins has it further to the west, but there is already an at-grade and underground tunnel that exists along Northwest Berry Road. We believe an additional access in the Kempton Falls area would be dangerous given the Berry Road topography. This shows the at-grade crossing And this shows you, I'm standing up at the top of the hill looking down on Berry Road. This is photos of the underground tunnel that exists in order to cross Berry Road if you don't want to cross it at grade. And then on your right, you can see the tunnel is outlined in yellow, but you can see the sidewalk that goes down. And this demonstrates the topography issues in this area. So therefore, we request approval of the development plan with a preliminary plat for 49 acres, subject to all of the staff conditions, except we're requesting that you delete conditions 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, 15, which our buildings are not higher than 30 feet, they're 28 feet, and condition number 22, because we've already submitted the preliminary stream buffer plan with the development plan. And then we're asking you to revise condition number 21 to delete the requirement that says plans shall include lowering the water main at Berry Road as needed to meet the 42-inch minimum cover. And we also are asking you not to add Mr. Watkins' requested condition. And we're available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for commissioners first?
Yes, if we go back to the tunnel picture slide for number 3. I'm a bit confused. So where is this in conjunction with the intersection that our public works person was speaking of?
It is. Yeah, go back to the site plan. I'll see. Find it there. It's not.
It's east of the Line Creek. Line Creek
Yeah.
Parkway is on the west side of the creek.
It is
and
right
then-
over here. Commissioner Beasley.
That's
So
where
here's the
tunnel
line,
is?
here's the Line Creek Trail that's going down. And the tunnel, that's the tunnel. That's the at-grade crossing, and that's the tunnel.
And that's also the same location for the bus stops that they want to get to? No,
No, those are further west.
that's what I'm asking. Where conjunction to this tunnel is that bus stop that we were talking about?
Is it where the road is that's shown on this?
Right here, I think.
Yeah.
Robin Hood Drive, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's right here. So it's in the middle of the site.
So that's within the 3/4 miles he was talking about?
I didn't feel like it was 3/4.
Well, I believe that's what he was describing, is if you
Pictures.
go on the south side of Berry Road, under the road and then back west again, that would add up to about 3/4 of
That's
the,
what he was talking about.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've got a safety question now. Is this tunnel lit and stuff? What's this tunnel look
There,
like?
there are lights in the tunnel.
Is it?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All the cars that, pedestrians that be able to park on the north side of that site and come in the road.
Okay. Thank you.
Baker, do you have a question?
No, I'd like to just, I think the applicant raised some good points on the 1D through, I guess, D, E, F, G, and I just would like to hear from staff on those, but I don't have any questions for the applicant.
I have a question for the applicant. Joe had mentioned that on 15, with the fire access, that in theory, if it might be something that you don't have to deal with at all. So are you comfortable leaving it in, since I don't feel like I understand it well enough to remove it?
I'm never comfortable leaving in conditions that don't apply because we have to deal with them in the future. I'm fine. We can work this out with staff before council. It does not apply. We'll get elevations to the staff so they're comfortable removing it too.
And then to preempt Commissioner Baker's questions to staff, are we fine with this 22, the stream buffer condition being removed?
Yes, I'm fine with condition 22. I did see Kirk Rome is online, so I'll let him give his opinion for number 21. Just removing that one section, and then I can go through the condition 1 if you'd like.
Yeah, staff has been great to work with, as Patricia said, and this is a great project. I think it's a project that transitions into what will happen to the balance of the 200 acres. It mixes right in with the trail. I mean, this is probably the most majestic piece of ground left in Kansas City. And Joe and his staff have been excellent to work with. And so whatever issues may remain between now and council, I'm very confident that we'll be able to work it out. So.
Do you have someone speak into condition 22, removing that, or?
I think Larissa said we're good with
We're good.
letting that one go since they've already submitted it.
And I believe at the beginning of the presentation, you moved condition 1H because it was already satisfied. That's okay. I just want to make sure we add that. So currently I have, we removed condition 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 22, and 1H. Proposed, yes, I'm just making sure. I mean, it seems like staff were in agreement with D, E, F, G.
And Ricky Sanchez from Parks and Rec is also online if you have questions regarding DE. 1D and 1E are his corrections that he's requesting the developer submit prior to ordinance request. So if you'd like to hear from the Parks and Rec department, he's available.
Those
as
are
well.
Parks Department's
Okay.
corrections.
Sure, I think that's what Baker was trying to get at. Like, does the staff agree with these changes, proposed changes? So sure.
And to get more information, especially about the bike lane north of on Light Creek.
Yep, and Bailey Waters can talk about that one as well. So I believe I'll let Kirk Rome go first. Joe, if you want to let him. Oh,
Yeah, he's in and he has his
just
hand
to
raised.
address condition 21, removing the language of plans shall include lowering the water main at Berry Road as needed to meet the 42-inch minimum cover.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman and Commission. This is Kirk Rome with Casey Water. I just wanted to talk real quickly about that revision to 21. We do have a 12-inch water main on the south side of Berry Road, and the development plan does show some grading over that main, both fill and cut grading. So we put that in there just to make sure that we maintain that 42-inch minimum cover once the final grading plans are established. We know that the plans will change and there may or may not be that grading needed in the future, but so that's why we put the as needed in there. But we do need to maintain that 42 inches of cover, both to keep the pipe from freezing and to keep the structural integrity of the pipe. And so we would request that condition remain, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The question that I have is, in the presentation, you had it highlighted in red. It's not in red in our staff report. Is that the portion of it that you were?
Yes, that's the portion I was speaking to.
The
Okay, sure,
portion in
asking-
red is what the applicant is requesting be removed.
Okay, and you're requesting that it stays in as written.
Correct.
And Kirk and Commission, we wouldn't have a problem saying instead that the plan shall, that we've got to maintain the 42-inch cover, minimum cover, rather than saying we got to lower the water main. That is a very costly expense. And we don't plan on removing that 42-inch cover. So
The grading cut that we do is pretty much on the level that it is there today. So maintaining the 42-inch is not an issue.
Okay, yeah, we're fine with that. We just want to maintain that 42 inches of cover. So however the wording needs to be done to keep that would be great.
I think you could strike out the words plans down to meet and instead say, maintain the 42-inch minimum cover.
Okay, we're good with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then just very quickly before we move on to Bailey and Ricky for 1G, staff just included that correction. It is ultimately up to the CPC to decide if they're okay with that. Staff does support the waiver, and just in preparation for city council, we added that condition in there. So we will be providing, I believe it's a committee sub, right, Sarah? If we've, no, just an ordinance request. Okay, it'll be updated depending on what is decided on today. So,
So I guess. So do you recommend the waiver to not have the 82nd Street connection? And 1G is the condition.
asking for the correction for them to show that condition or that connection. But the waiver does say that they do not have to provide. that connection.
She's trying to give you the option to
Yeah.
grant the waiver, and if you do grant the waiver, then the condition would stay and the correction can go.
Number 7 is granting that waiver.
Okay.
And if you don't, then the correction would stay and the condition would go.
But to be clear, you guys are in support of the waiver.
Correct.
Okay. I know we talk about connections a lot here, so just want to make sure.
So you're keeping condition 7 and removing condition 1G.
Correct.
Got it.
If you have questions, I believe Ricky is still online and Bailey is here in person, so.
Who are we waiting on?
I'm sorry. Ricky Sanchez is here to talk about 1D and E, and Bailey Waters is here for 1F. Okay. Yeah.
Parks Department, right?
Yes.
Hello, commissioners.
Yes. Hi, Ricky.
Hi, my name is Ricky Sanchez. I'm with the Parks and Rec Department. Yeah, so 1D, we're really talking about the 6-foot sidewalk on the east side of Line Creek Parkway. And what we're trying to do is match what is on the north side of Berry Road there. And so staff would be willing to, shrink that median size and see if it's a possibility to fit that sidewalk in to the east side. What would happen is there's no pedestrian connection on the south side or on that east side to maybe future connections to subdivisions that will be constructed to the south. And so what we'll have to do is they'll have to cross this, the roundabout and connect up to this sidewalk on the west side of Line Creek Parkway. And it's just additional pedestrian linkages that we would prefer not be made.
Yeah, basically, as we explained earlier, the drop off to the east side is pretty extreme. I'm guesstimating probably from where Line Creek Parkway is being built down to the stream itself is probably between 30 and 40 feet. Eventually, phase 2 of this will be built and will be coming back before you at some point. But out of this roundabout, the road headed back towards the east, or the lower right road stem there, that will actually cut back into what will become a single family neighborhood. And there we will have to build a bridge across that stream buffer and that stream in order to connect to that. Once we're on that side of the stream, there will be connectivity directly to the trail out of that neighborhood. But at this phase, the connectivity needs to be through the sidewalk along Berry Road.
But I think he's trying to say that he's willing to shrink the median to make it work. Is that correct, Mr. Sanchez?
Correct.
But isn't that the question that Joe raised earlier, that if you shrink that, I thought we heard from the applicant's team that they would not be able to change the lanes?
It was stated much more simply by the commissioner, but yes, that's exactly what I was trying to ask, was whether the lanes could be narrowed. And what I thought I heard was that when you get to Berry Road, because of how close the lane it would have to be at that location because of what it is on the north side. And it's too close to the stream buffer to not cause further encroachment, I believe, is what I heard.
Which would say that the 1D is not an option, right? Is that what?
I mean, it's an option, but you guys are choosing between preserving the stream buffer or adding the grading, which is a cost issue and a stream buffer issue in this location.
Really big retaining wall too.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to balance a bunch of interests here. One is the stream buffer, which we've respected here. We know we got topography issues. We're also trying to make a good way for pedestrians to go along the streets. We believe we've done that. I mean, we have widened the sidewalk along the west side of Line Creek Parkway. We've got sidewalk connections you can see in the roundabout that's going on. So
what I would like to do is, I think we'll hear about like 1E, then we'll go to public testimony if there's anything, and then we'll close and we'll have a discussion amongst the commissioners around each of these.
We need to hear 1F too.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 1F and 1E. So we'll wait. Thank you. 1F is, oh, we're waiting on 1E. And that is, you speak Ricky.
Yeah. So regarding 1E, this is talking about the just showing a 10-foot wide trail connection that will eventually connect this development to the trail that's located within Tract B. What you currently see on the plan is if a resident from this development wanted to connect up to the trail, they would have to leave their development, go north onto the Line Creek Parkway, across, they would follow Berry Road and then be able to connect up to the trail. And with this sort of pedestrian alignment, I don't see very many people doing that. If there was some sort of direct connection from this development to the trail, we would see a lot more use out of that trail from this development. So that's all we're asking, is that a future trail be shown, not necessarily have to be constructed with this development, but shown how they propose these residents get over there, other than having to loop around an entire street and then along Berry Road.
again, we've got topography issues.
But this would just be an idea, right? This wouldn't be a mandate to actually build it.
Commissioner Baker.
Correct.
Anytime we put an idea down on paper per staff's recommendation, it becomes a requirement. I'm sorry. We will have to deal with that in the future. And we're going to be back in front of you when we deal with the big residential 200 acres immediately to the south.
I love the idea, but yeah, looking at this topography, because then that would also require, wouldn't that also require them building a pedestrian bridge over the stream to get to the, it seems more complicated than just, I like the idea of connecting to it. But on the map that they showed us, I mean, yeah, it's just a really steep drop off, and then you're getting permission to build, or I guess not, maybe you don't need permission, but potentially outside of your property, a pedestrian bridge across the stream, which just seems like a very tall ask.
Yeah, I mean, the second phase of this, that bridge that we build across that will accommodate pedestrians as well as vehicular. And as far as showing a future trail that will head that way, I have no problem with doing that. But today, the only way to really get connection to that is the existing connection that's been there for years and years on Berry Road.
Commissioners, I have a suggestion if Parks might might be okay with it. I think what they're trying to do is get people, I mean, the main thing is to try to get pedestrians to the trail so that want to go south on the trail. So to what Mr. Hayes was just saying is Lion Creek Parkway will have to jog east at some point from the roundabout. And at some point it will cross Lion Creek Parkway. And I would just suggest that a note be added to the plan stating that a trail connection should follow that road. Because then you've already got a street connection crossing the creek and the grading's being performed. It makes sense for a pedestrian connection to occur there, in my opinion. So perhaps we could.
Yeah, I don't think we have an objection to it as long as we make sure it says future.
Future street and trail extension. Right.
Trust me, we want pedestrian connection to that trail as quickly as we possibly can. I mean,
I know.
and that's a heck of an amenity for this development. So, but we've looked at this 100 different ways, and the way we have it designed now is the only way. But in the future, we have no problem showing connectivity.
And I think parks would be acceptable to that sort of language. All we're looking for is some sort of show of good faith that there will be a eventual pedestrian connection to this trail.
So for clarity, so are you suggesting that 1E be revised? Or are you asking for us to, are you okay with striking 1E and adding a condition that the future street and trail connection follow, is that Lion Creek Parkway?
I would just revise 1E to simply state that the plans show that the plans note future street and trail connection to be constructed in the future. And we would delete the text that's there and just replace it with that, something like that.
I think I got it. All right, and now we're waiting to hear about 1G. The one that's, is that the outstanding one? Yeah.
Sorry, it's 1F.
1F, sorry, 1F water, right?
1F is the bike lanes.
Bike lane.
Oh,
On the
thank you. I was
parkway.
just getting ready to ask.
Sorry.
We may ask Commissioner Baker, did we do that? Okay.
And again, what we did in response to hearing staff's concern about blocking roads is we increased the drive lanes to 14 feet. So cars could get past each other if there's an accident there. But we have always had a 10-foot wide sidewalk for the bike lane on the west side of Lion Creek Parkway to mimic what's done on the north side of Berry Road.
Who is the staff that's speaking to this condition?
Bailey Waters.
Yeah, Bailey Waters with Public Works. I just support the Parks Department in their addition of the bike lanes instead of 14-foot lanes, which are unnecessarily wide, just widening the road maybe a foot into the median rather than going into the encroachment, and keeping that 10-foot trail on the west side, but painting bike lanes to have the bike connections throughout our city. There's the Lion Creek trail, there's the 152 trail half a mile north of this development. So allowing people to get to and from this development onto the different facilities, the trail immediately to the east, as well as the facilities north of Berry Road on Lion Creek Parkway. So Public Works supports the parks, I guess, request here. There has been discussion over the stream buffer and all. And so I guess it's just whether or not we think it's possible to add that or not. But
I'm not familiar with the bike trail you were referencing. And so you said half a mile to the north, there's a bike trail that is on the road or not on the road?
It's an off-street trail. It's the 150 True Trail running east and west. It's about half mile north of this development. So if you were to get onto Line Creek Parkway and head north, you would then have access to this trail that is south of 152 that runs east and west.
So while I imagine most, cyclists do prefer paved road as opposed to sidewalk, what did you think about how the applicant was explaining that for continuity, most people are probably biking on that 10-foot wide sidewalk currently and extending that in terms of continuity? Does that still not seem like the right path for you?
It could be acceptable if there was a proper crossing of Berry Road. Like if you're taking the sidewalk up to Berry Road, and then like the additional condition we proposed with that crossing of Berry Road, instead of having to go loop down and around on the trail and then come back up, to be able to just directly cross Berry Road, I think would allow for a more acceptable solution in my eyes, for a bike facility to have a proper crossing there rather than the grade change of going down and back up on your bike, is not necessarily ideal.
There is an at-grade crossing. that
Yeah,
is
I mean, I get the point, and I
Signed.
well, I think that she's saying she'd like it at Line Creek Parkway, which I get that would be nice too. I don't think that's happening, but that would be great. Yeah.
But yeah, those would be my comments for that.
And I guess just to add on, this is Ricky Sanchez with the Parks and Rec Department. Parks would be acceptable with reducing the size of that 14-foot wide street that they're proposing, or the drive lane, and reducing it down to 11 feet, and then adding a 4-foot wide bike lane. So you'd only be increasing the entire width of that drive lane by a foot going each way, so a total of 2 feet would be widened.
That totally conflicts with the previous direction we received from staff about wanting to have the drive lanes wider in case there was an accident that was blocking the drive lane.
Well, and the bike lane would allow for a car to, they would have to pull into the bike lane, and then that would allow enough room for a car to go onto the side.
So these aren't even protected bike lanes? No,
These
okay.
are striped, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, at this time, if you would like to give public testimony on docket item number 6, please raise your hand so that you can be recognized. If there's anyone in the chambers that would like to give public testimony, please come up. If not, Joe, let me know. Oh, is there someone who would like to give up? Yes, sir. Please come, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Justin Burton. I live at Northwest 80th Street and also work for FP&C Consultants, Fire Protection Building Code Consulting firm. I'm not interested in the connection of 82nd Street through. That was originally designed under a CUP project in the 1970s, Community Unit Project, which had multiple other developments which never got developed and were actually abandoned. The reason I know they were abandoned is I live on 80th Street, and those improvements were part of my property, which are not being done. I know a lot of people that live in the Wallen Cree apartment complex. There's lots of kids. Increasing traffic through there would be horrible. There's all sorts of kids across the street. There's 2 pools. They go back and forth to those pools. It loses its ambiance of a small community by connecting it to 82nd. And I also want to go on the record and say I have no relationship other than meeting Gary for the first time today. Because I live on 80th Street, I have contacted my adjacent property owners for stuff that I've done. I just don't think connection of 82nd Street is advantageous for the community, and it loses its community feel when you start having these thoroughfares that pass through these developments. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who has raised their hand online?
Yeah, someone named Shauna Silvius.
Ms. Silvius, welcome. Please state your full name and address for the record. Hello, you've been promoted. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Oh, here she comes. Maybe.
I'm not sure if you're speaking. We cannot hear you. Okay, we see you. We can't hear you, but we can see you. Nope, I guess you might want to check to make sure that your speakers are the speakers for the device you're using, but we cannot hear you. Is she the only one that raised her hand?
Yes,
Okay.
she is.
We still cannot hear you, but one of the things you can do is send a direct message to Joseph, and we'll see if we can get it read.
Can
out
you hear me now?
Perfect, we got you, yes. Oh. No, sorry.
Oh, no.
It was there for a second and we lost you.
You can chat your testimony and I can read it to the commission.
We'll give her another minute to hopefully chat, because I don't want to close public testimony. Go into conversation with the commissioner.
Can you hear me now?
I got you.
Yes?
Yes, very
No.
clear. We can hear you.
Oh.
Nope, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can't hear us.
Maybe we can just chat with her, like, you just talk and we'll respond later. I will respond, but
She hasn't chatted anything yet.
okay.
You can provide testimony and we'll put it in the record for council to look at. If we can't connect here, you can email it.
Yeah,
I don't know if she can hear us or not.
No, it looks like she's trying to call in, but I'll tell you what, maybe we can chat her and tell her exactly what you said
Yeah.
in case she can't hear
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It looks like she's trying to call the dial-in number. The CPC values, public engagement. And so thank you all for a degree of grace while we try to see if Ms. Shauna can give comment. I certainly want to provide that platform, but also to be efficient. We'll give another minute and then we'll move on. We'll close public testimony. And as Joe stated, she can text and we'll provide that as part of the record when it moves on to the next phase. Yes, sir.
Joe, if you do talk to her, feel free to give her my cell phone number. If she has any questions in regards to the project, I'll be glad
Okay.
to talk to her.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now via phone?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me try it this way. I'm sorry about that. I thought I tested that out ahead of time.
That's okay. Please state your full name and address for the record.
Okay, my full name is Shauna Silvius. I live at 3017 Northwest 83rd Terrace, Kansas City, Missouri. We own the 3 acres just to the east of the bigger development. It connected to the meadows that wraps around the meadows. And so we're very familiar with the area. And first of all, I do want to say that, I would love for nothing to happen to that property, but I do feel like they've done a great job, with their plans. I do want to say the trail that we use or how we access the trail from our neighborhood, the Meadows, we have to walk out to Berry Road and we walk down to the trail, and that's what we do. We all do it. So it's not a big deal. It's just something that's been done. So I hate to see that then there's a pedestrian bridge, because we're already losing a lot of the natural elements that's there already, even though they're trying to preserve them. And I think in addition, adding a bike trail to the east side when there's one to the west side, it's just, how many feet across is that? That's not, I think people can do that. We do it. We go under the bridge, we go above. There's a connection right there just to the east of where you're asking there to be a cross section. So I don't understand why you want to put another one in. I know I'm talking as quickly as I can just because I don't want to take up more of your time. And also the idea of the pedestrian crosswalk, where they're proposing it, I agree, is a horrible place. We drive Berry Road all the time and it's just getting busier and busier. I wouldn't let my child cross there. I'm not sure I would cross there because it's dangerous. It's dangerous when people are getting out of neighborhoods in their cars and they go much faster than feet. So that's another thing. And I did want to say, we have bats all the time. So yes, there are many bat species up there. And with the construction, the tearing down of the trees, we have this influx of owls too. So I appreciate that they're considering that and trying to keep the green, because that wildlife is there and we see it every day. Okay. Any questions, or do you want me to just be quiet now?
No, thank you. Thank you for working hard to make sure your voice is heard. We appreciate your comments.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If there's no one else that wants to provide public comments or public testimony, Joe, then we'll close and open it back up to the commission.
There's no one else.
There's no one else. Okay, let's close public testimony. And now let's discuss as commissioners. Does anybody want to start?
I'll start.
All right.
Exciting project. Looks nice. Maybe if I can get a raise, I can live there. But so I'll be supporting the project, kind of going down the list. 1H, okay. I'm a big bike lane guy, even though I don't even really bike, but I know other people do. I know it's been a big hot topic lately. And I was ready to push that through, but I think the topography and the fact that they're not protected kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. And I do like the larger sidewalks along Line Creek. So I don't know if we could shrink. The bigger streets I might have an issue with, but I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. And I think I'm okay with staff on 82nd Street, although I don't believe crime and traffic are good excuses to not connect. It's kind of just a small little neighborhood, so I don't really see it as a major issue. Keep 15 just in case, and you can remove before council. Change 42 minimum cover, remove 22. I think the main thing that I wanted to just briefly touch on is I don't think I would feel comfortable requiring you guys to make a connection across Berry Road, but I do think, despite your comments about studying it, I think that there is an issue about getting to those bus stops. As someone who lives in a transit heavy area, it's still a half mile to get to the Main Street Max from my house, and that's not, even though I'm able-bodied, it's really hard to do. And I watch a lot of Channel 2 and hear a lot from our Northlands Council folks, and they complain about transit and connections and all that all the time. And feels like every week we have another groundbreaking on a transit connection or a sidewalk that just wasn't planned appropriately in the past. So I would just like to add just to figure out like a general area of what could be done to cross Berry Road from this development. Because I do think it's important. I think 3/4 of a mile to get around it is very challenging. But overall supportive, and I think I agree with most of the revisions for the conditions. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else before I give comments?
I want to ask Tyler a question since I know he cycles. Protected versus unprotected bike lanes. What's your? feel on that?
I mean, I think in this situation, I think the wide sidewalk makes sense. I mean, the ideal circumstance, that Line Creek looks like it would be an amazing place to have an awesome protected bike lane all the way through. And it is the start of a new development. So it is attractive to try to require it based upon the topography and based upon the existence of the 10-foot wide lane already. I think it's a reasonable compromise to stay with the 10-foot sidewalk.
I appreciate that because I'm not a cyclist, but I do drive cars and these protected bike lanes are really getting on my nerves. I understand the safety of them, but I still wanted to get your input. So thank you.
I agree with Commissioner Baker. And so on 1E, the way I would restate it if we're making the motion is requiring or saying that a future trail connection should be made when Line Creek extends east across the stream. And then the last piece that I think that we need to wrestle with, if others agree with Commissioner Baker, then is if we ask for a connection to be studied, a pedestrian connection across is studied, or if we're asking for a deferral agreement where there is cost sharing. I'm fine doing that, requiring that there'd be some cost sharing. In my sense of this, in terms of trying to figure out what's equitable, there's a development across the street to the north of Berry Road that would also really benefit from being able to get to the bus stop on the opposite side of the street as well. And so this is totally arbitrary now at this point, but if there's a development across the street that would benefit, there's a development on this side which could benefit, and the city wants to start asking for these things, maybe we put in there that there's a 25% cost sharing on this applicant if the city decided to move forward with some sort of pedestrian crossing there. But I don't know what's standard and if that's a reasonable ask or not, but that's kind of off the cuff what makes sense.
I'm leaning more to, if it's possible, adding a recommendation that it's PIAC funded. I mean, I think that, developers are creating, an opportunity for Kansas City to bring more people here to a place where we all love to live, work, and play. I think they've done a really good job with trying to lay out, the project and the property. And I think since it's going to council, I think if council wants to approve it, there's PIAC money citywide and district. The only worry I have here is that we're going through redistricting. So I don't know if this will be Council District 2 and remains Council District 2, or after the June, will it be Council District 1 by the time it makes it?
It remains Council
remains
District
too,
2.
yeah.
The north side of the road becomes Council District 1.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't advocate for cost sharing at this point. My main intention is purely we have a lot of complaints, especially in the Northland, about connections and transit. And if it's not even called out on some of these plans and presented in neighborhood planning commission, development commission, then I think it adds to the conversation. And I don't think since it's a actual code requirement currently. I think we had one down south with a golf course and they wanted to defer street improvements, which I think was part of the code. So I would be in favor of just kind of studying it and calling it out as an option, because we just heard that Berry Road is impossible to cross safely.
One additional piece of information we didn't provide you is when that phase to the south goes in, Line Creek Parkway will become a lighted intersection. Because that's what the traffic study
Yeah, we had
stated.
a traffic study done, and at this point, it's fine. But when that second phase goes in, that will have to become a signalized. And we've already started talking to the council about that.
Are you talking about the 200 single family development?
Yes.
I was gonna bring that up as a reason to do the study, to get the traffic pedestrian better. So you're saying you've already looking into it?
Yeah, we know that the next phase will require a lighted intersection at Line Creek Parkway and Berry Road.
That's at the same.
And we
but
include what we're talking about to that?
I guess I'm looking for like something closer towards the west, right? And whether it's a hawk signal or maybe it doesn't work, right? And maybe at the end of the day,
Commissioner Baker, I really respect you, but I don't think the city will put in a light at Line Creek Parkway and Berry Road and then put in a hawk signal not very far down the road.
potentially that's true, right? But I think we are not, as a body, we're trying to uphold the best planning practices possible. We're a recommending body, right? And everything can be changed at council. I think we're trying to put forth the best thing, and that's just a small ask of maybe you come back and say it's too hilly, it doesn't work, but just kind of calling it out for council, I think is very important. Just generally, I think it's not just picking on you guys. It's kind of the whole body of work that we do in the city. I think it's important because we hear it all the time. It's like, so.
I'd like to add, it's not just the council, but the community to hear that we're looking at safety and wanting to bring things up that would improve that. So.
And so agree with the sentiment. What's the most effective thing that we can add to achieve everything y'all are saying? Because I don't know if it's asking the applicant to do the study because they wouldn't be the ones who are putting it in. So as Chair Hill had said, maybe it's something that's calling out that city look at it or something else, because I want to acknowledge it as you.
That's fine. That's cool. That works for me.
There's a third, I have a suggestion maybe there's a third party here, which is the Transit Authority. So, and we did speak with them, and I think that they ended up saying that they weren't interested in moving the stop on the north side of Berry Road at this time. But maybe what you could do is recommend a condition that the city staff that spoke today, as well as the developer and ATA, at least discuss the future plans for that, and whatever gets approved acknowledges what that is. It may or may not be a signal. It may a hawk signal. It may be something down at the intersection of Line Creek Parkway when phase 2 happens, because that will be a signalized intersection. It may be something else, but it just requires that what it would do is require the three parties to start talking about that.
Like that.
That works.
And what condition are we revising to state that?
This is a new one.
This is.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was a new one.
This is a new condition.
Dang.
It would be 27 if we're adding it in.
27.
You can take a crack at it if we're feeling good.
I just want to, are you okay, Paul?
Okay.
Okay.
Discussing will probably become mandatory if and when the next phase starts to commence.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Enders, since you want to make the motion, would you prefer that we have a level set of all the conditions prior to? Or do you think you're good to roll them through and we'll just adjust as we go?
I think I got it.
All right, come on.
Chair Hill, I move to approve docket item number 6 with conditions and the following amendments: removing 1.H, 1.D, 1.F, 1.G, restating 1.E to state future trail connection should be made when Line Creek extends east across the stream. Restating one part of condition 21, developer shall maintain 42-inch minimum cover over water main at Berry Road. Removal of condition number 22 and adding condition number 27, asking city staff, the ATA, and developer to discuss future pedestrian access to the bus stop on the north side of Berry Road.
Second.
Oh, wait. We revised 21 to maintain the 42-inch minimum cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keeping 15. I feel like it was one that we didn't address.
That was it.
Think that's it? All right. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. Lisa, will you call the roll?
Yes, can you say that 27 again?
27 is
The
city
city.
staff, ATA, and applicant is to discuss future pedestrian access to the bus stop on the north side of Berry Road.
Future pedestrian access.
Do you want that? I'm sorry, one more clarification on that. Do you want us to do that when phase 2 comes in? That's what I was thinking. Or do you want us to do
Yeah, I was-
that before this goes to council?
I was gonna leave it vague as is, so that way the
Okay.
discussion could happen now, but there's not really the teeth in it. So that way, if something can be found, accomplished sooner than phase 2, that's great. But if it doesn't happen until phase 2, it still happens.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Lisa, will you call
Okay.
the roll?
Yep. Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
All right, the project has been unanimously approved. Thank you all so much for coming and developing a great project and working through these with us. We appreciate that.
For your patience. I had predicted your meeting would be done early today.
Not so. Yeah.
It's early relative.
Yeah, it is.
It's early for you guys.
Yes.
It's not even noon yet.
We have, we'll welcome Chair Crowell back, and I'm not sure if we are supposed to go to lunch or not. I'm not even tracking how many cases we have left.
0.
That was it.
No, I think
Oh,
that was
then-
it. We're done with our agenda today. Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah. So if there's anything else that needs to come before the commission,
Oh, Mr. Chair.
yeah. Are you guys ready to end the meeting?
Yes, sir.
All
No.
right. I don't think there's anything else to come before the commission. So let's go motion to adjourn.
So moved. Just wanted to do that.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Because I'm a kid and I like.
That's